the official greeting. First and third Sunday, insight and metta. Let us practice some meditation of insight, vipassana, and also add some metta practice to it of loving kindness. And now that we are all gathered once again, here is the bell. Letting yourself get comfortable wherever you are. You can sit or stand or lay on your side or lay down. All the positions in between can allow for the conditions of awakening to be present. Letting ourselves settle into a position that feels comfortable. As the Buddha said, under a tree or in a hut. How lucky we are. We're in our homes. And having gratitude that we have homes to be in. Beginning to just notice as the body settles on its chair. Where there may be tensions in the body. Letting a sense of relaxation flow behind the eyes, in the face and jaw. Letting the head be balanced above the spine. Relaxing around the tongue and the throat. And noticing, is there tightness there? Sometimes as soon as we pay attention to it, it can relax some. Letting that relaxation flow through the shoulders, down the spine and the back, around the rib cage. Down into the belly. Feeling a kind of groundedness. Feeling the buttocks on the chair. Noticing the touch point of the buttocks on the chair. Noticing the hands, a touch point at the hands or the arms where we feel pressure of a body part against another body part. That can bring us into the present, a touch point, or our attention on the breath. noticing rising and falling of the breath at whatever place you choose to notice, at the nostrils or the chest or at the diaphragm. Whatever best works for you for bringing yourself into the present moment and allowing the attention to settle on one object, one spot. Letting the breath come and go at its own natural pace. Noticing breathing in if it's a short breath or a long breath. Discerning on the exhale if it's a short breath or a long breath. We can notice sensations arising of the feeling tone of pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe neutral, as we attend to noticing as clearly as we can coolness or warmth, pressure, tingling, jagged, smooth. We want mindfulness to be present at whatever arises, but we start on the single object to help concentration get developed. Maybe it's only for a breath or two that we can be present with the breath. Sometimes we can make it for another breath or two, but if not, and the mind wanders into a thought form, we can just gently notice, thinking is arising. That's what happens. That's fine. Thinking is happening. And if we choose to return to the breath, we can let go of the clinging or pushing away that may occur when those thoughts are followed. And so we have a moment of freedom when we notice that we're flowing along in a thought pattern, and we can just come back and begin again at the breath or the hands touching or the sits bones on the chair. We can also feel warmth and coolness on our skin. Sometimes going inside the body is a little challenging, and we can start a little more externally with that pressure point of the hands or the arms touching somewhere, or noticing pressure at the wherever you have skin exposed to air. There might be coolness or warmth. And so we just bring ourselves into the present in whatever way seems to feel most comfortable. And as we begin to settle, we can remember to include a sense of kindness for ourselves. an appreciation and gratitude for choosing to be here, for being willing to be present with the contents of the heart and mind, with mindfulness, observing. We may notice some of these same sensations at places in the body of noticing stiffness or tightness. Sometimes there's pain in various places that we can acknowledge by observing it. We can notice sometimes contraction in the mind. Oftentimes, if we ask ourselves, what's happening in the mind right now? What's the attitude of the mind? We can notice that if we soften tensions around the mind, tensions can be released in the body as well. So whatever works for you in establishing mindfulness and awareness, follow your path. Inevitably, if we are present with what arises and we connect with that object, we can see clearly that conditions have come together for this to be seen. It arises, we connect with it. It stays for however long it stays, and we can notice that it passes. Even if it's a pleasant state, we can't hang on to it. Or if it's an aversive state, we can't push it away. We just see it clearly, be with it, attend to it, find interest, and notice that it leaves, arising and passing away, coming together and falling apart, over and over and over again. And when the intention wanders away from the present moment and we get lost in thoughts about the past or the future, we can be aware perhaps of when we have come to that point that we've noticed it and it falls away and we wake up in that moment. And that's a moment of mindfulness. That's a moment of joy to be noted, that we wake up in that moment. And we can go from there. We may notice the breath throughout the entire body. We may notice whatever comes next into view. Changing objects. Or we can also return to the original object chosen of a touch point or the breath. Kindly beginning again. Training the mind gently. Many times we hear someone refer to it as training the puppy to continue returning to the newspaper. You don't yell at the puppy or get mad at the puppy. You just bring the puppy back. Give it a treat for staying in the right place. So we bring our minds back. We bring our hearts back to this moment, to something tangible like the sitting point or the hands touching or the breath of the nostrils. The attention wanders, we gently bring it back. We may notice sometimes that there's restlessness or agitation that arises, or tiredness, sleepiness. Sometimes doubt arises, aversion arises, grasping arises. We can see them. We can let wisdom be present to see clearly with insight. These states are temporary, they rise and pass away also. And as we develop concentration on the single object, oftentimes those hindrances are not as present. So we train for a while on the return to the object, whether it's a single object or changing objects of whatever arises at any of the sense doors. But it allows us to focus. And if you're an experienced practitioner and used to broadening your field, you can allow a more open awareness to whatever arises in our field of awareness. To be present with it. Notice its changing nature, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. Conditions come together, they are unsatisfactory. We notice this because they can't stay, or we can't have them go as quickly as we want them to. We can notice that they are not personal. They're impersonal. We can't really identify with them as ours. If we could, we'd probably try to let some of them go right away and grasp onto others. So they are constantly changing. And we are in the midst of that, letting mindfulness be the stick in the middle of the stream. That center point around which the water flows. We have our breath, we have mindfulness, we have awareness, and the rest flows by. We grasp onto some of it, we see it disappear over and over and over again with kindness for ourselves. In this sometimes challenging training of the heart and mind to be present. Mindfulness at the fore, mindfulness at the center. The river of sensations flowing by. Letting ourselves settle into a stability in our posture, mindfulness at the center. A flurry often of thoughts and emotions arise. We can notice them, perhaps give them a soft, gentle note of thinking arising, or pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. We can't really tell. And we can return to that single object of the breath, or the touch point, or we can have the more open awareness of whatever arises and arrives at any of the sense doors is what we experience. All of our experiences come through our sense doors. And so we just relax, grounded, anchored in the body, and the sense of containment. Letting whatever comes and goes. understanding directly the teachings of the Buddha of anatta, anicca, dukkha. Can't identify it as self, constantly changing and unsatisfactory, arises and passes away. Seeing this with the mind of mindfulness, neutral, observing, awareness present, and wisdom discerning whether what arises is skillful or unskillful for our practice, and letting go gently as much as we can of what is not skillful and not helpful. returning again, returning again. Being present in this moment, calming the bodily activity, experiencing joy at the moment of awareness that arises, noticing the mind is wandering or a hindrance is present, noticing the mental activity, calming the mental activity, experiencing the mind and gladdening the mind, steadying the mind, the heart and mind, citta. Giving us opportunities of liberating the mind. By seeing clearly impermanence, without clinging. Noticing the letting go that happens naturally. Letting go easefully of unskillful mind states, inclining the heart and mind toward mindfulness, compassion, gentleness, just the right amount of energy, concentration, confidence in the practice, and wisdom that arises. Knowing that we have those opportunities and we're present with exactly what's happening. Remembering to hold ourselves in kindness. As we bring this insight to end, clearly seeing what's happening in the heart and mind to a close, and including loving kindness and compassion in our practice. A similar feeling can occur the way attention on the single object of the breath occurs. We can use the feeling in the body or repetition of a phrase in the mind that works for us to continue letting the hindrances stay at bay. And have a kind of gentleness, finding a place in our hearts. It's not always easy. Sometimes we can start finding that kindness in our heart for another person easier than we can for ourselves. Letting our hearts include a close friend or a teacher or a benefactor. It could be, if it's a teacher, it could be an animal or a child. If it's a friend, it's someone that's easy to imagine in our minds. Seeing them happy and healthy. And allow kindness from the container of our body anchored in gravity, and holding our hearts open for a benefactor or a close friend. If you're comfortable using the phrases, some of the simple ones, may you be free from harm. May you be free from inner and outer harm, safe and protected. Or may you have ease in your life. May you have happiness and the causes of happiness. Freedom from suffering. May we set that person aside and bring to mind another person, a friend, someone, a being that we've benefited from. Holding them in our hearts and wishing a feeling in our heart and mind that they be free from inner and outer harm, safe and protected, have ease in their lives. May we have this attitude of friendliness toward this being, that they be at ease. We are developing this goodwill. It's not necessarily a pleasant feeling that arises, but it's a wise response to the sentient nature of beings. We establish a place within our hearts to allow nourishment to grow. Empathy and goodwill can flow naturally as we include ourselves in this practice. Bringing that kindness from the benefactor and the close friend. We let this kindness this sense of well-being to also include ourselves. And as we nurture this feeling, we are gently letting go of any ill will we may have. When kindness is present, ill will cannot be. Letting these thoughts of kindness also include compassion for ourselves. When things are difficult, may we hold ourselves gently. May we be with difficulty with kindness. We're developing our heart's capacity to purifying our heart, helping it be free from negativity and allow it to have well-being and kindness grow. And as we let this container of the heart include others, may we also include neutral people, someone we don't know, but we know just as I wish to be happy, I know that you also wish to be happy. Inclining our own heart to love and kindness, well-being. Not dependent on results. Seeing this neutral person, wishing them to be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their life. Inclining the heart and mind toward this goodwill. And the fuller it gets in this direction, the less room there is for ill will or more negative mind states to arise that can cause us harm. We're letting our hearts develop the training of having kindness and compassion flow to this neutral person or neutral people if you chose a group. May we allow this kindness to flow to others, known and unknown, seen and unseen. We may be able to include a difficult person in that category, or others who are in suffering, as well as others who are in joy. Letting this kindness flow to beings known and unknown, seen and unseen, those enlightened and those unenlightened. May this caring and kindness that we are nurturing be a foundation of self-confidence and security to help us not have fear. We do our best to fill our hearts with kindness and goodwill. Letting this feeling of unconditional goodwill include animals that walk and crawl, swim and fly, beings that are in suffering and beings that are in joy. This feeling of unconditional goodwill, when it's not aimed at one person, but it forms a basis for our interior life. It's an important aid in meditation because we learn that through it, real confidence and faith in the practice is possible. May all beings be free from harm, have ease and well-being. Find freedom from suffering. Anicca vata sankhara, upadavaya domino, upakitawa meruchanti, te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things arise and pass away. Seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. letting the eyes open gently, still noticing the in-breath and the out-breath. If you want to stretch a little bit and reach for your tea or your water or your glasses. And to those of you on Facebook, come back in 5 minutes for a talk and conversation.